If anyone told you last Yom Kippur that in a year you would be sitting in your living room in front of a computer or TV watching Kol Nidre being chanted beautifully in your sanctuary, full of empty seats and a couple of cameras, you would have perhaps politely blown them off and turned away, giggling to yourself. Nothing is as it was or as it will be. And by the way, we're doing just fine. Good evening. I'm still Helen Pinsky, and still the president of the board of directors of Congregation Beth Israel. That hasn't changed, but so much else has. And in telling you about it, I'm going to tell you a success story of a synagogue that rose to the challenge of 2020. What happens when we reach the beginning of a new year? It's time to wake up. We are in a season of renewal. The shofar blows and calls us. Hey you, time to put the old brain into motion. Time for a clean start. How can I be my best me this year? It's time to reflect on our commitments to community, to our social connections and our connections to God and to our spiritual selves. How can Congregation Beth Israel be the best home to its congregants? Last year, the commitment of our staff, volunteers, and members was so impressive. We proved that a building does not a synagogue make. The call for us to be our very best continues through COVID and beyond. Last year, 5780 started like so many others. The synagogue was bustling with activity through Tishrei, holiday after holiday, feast, fast, feast in the sukkah, dance with the Torah, new classes, new programs, new hopes and dreams. Our finances were stable. Membership was growing and included many more young families. Staff was relatively stable and of the highest quality. The board was involved in policy development, fundraising, and so many more initiatives. Well, that lasted for a while, and it was fun while it lasted. During the pre-COVID times, we put on some amazing events and did some crazy things, like hugging each other and shaking hands, Mazel Tov and Yasher Koach. Just days before lockdown, we celebrated Purim with a musical that was inspired and inspiring. Full house and such fun. Our casino night, held within that same 2-week period, was well-attended, spirited, and young at heart. And it raised $28,000 in needed funds for the synagogue. Our youth activities were numerous, and I just wish I could have been a kid again to experience them. 20 of our USY cruised to LA in November. Yes, cruised. The Chagim involved kids and youth in the hundreds. Cosmic Hanukkah at the H.R. McMillan Space Center sold out. Other programs full. Such a success. And then came March. You know what happened. Coronavirus, pandemic. As you know, this synagogue immediately went into action, planning for the unknown. Our staff, lay leadership, and clergy worked devotedly to determine if, when, and how to close the physical building, set up alternate arrangements, and so on. The board held 2 emergency meetings, and 2 COVID-19 task force committees were established, one for everyday decisions, and one to plan these very high holiday services so as to maximize our holiday while keeping everyone safe. The best and most respected of physicians were working with us on the committees, guiding our carefully orchestrated steps to keep our congregation thriving without a physical anchor. We had to close our building and build a virtual community. Everything was fluid, things changed rapidly, and we had to change with those changes. I had no idea what was going to happen to the synagogue. I only knew what we couldn't do, and I could not see the potential and the upside of our situation. I was conducting or attending meetings several times a week, sometimes several times a day, not knowing how our members were doing, but knowing that many felt isolated, fighting loneliness. I didn't know who I or all of us could count on. I should have known better. The rabbis were amazing. Rabbi Infeld decided that rather than close shop, we were ramping up. Rabbi Stein invoked all his brilliant techie skills. Esther worked day and night, literally, to create the infrastructure to run a synagogue virtually. Chuck, our building manager, arranged for the safe closing and later the safe opening of the building, learning how to do Zoom security in between. Staff has really shone. On behalf of the board and our whole congregation, I thank staff members for their initiatives, their hard work, their adaptability to the new normal, and their creativity. Thank you, Rabbi Infeld, Rabbi Stein, Esther Moses Wood, Debbie Fenson, Rabbi Blumen, Gaynor Levine, Nikki Freed, Chuck Partridge, Lito Manalo, Suzanne Gumpridge, and Melody Boy. My board, and particularly the executive, were available and committed every time they were needed to make a decision. I called on many other committees, too, to help us work things out, and they did. And volunteers turned up. Together we called everyone in the synagogue at least once. Well, to be honest, that was mostly the rabbis doing. We spoke with our most vulnerable members often. Volunteers provided help to those in need. Over 30 young adults stepped in and helped our congregants during COVID with shopping, technology, connection. It was so heartening. The way our members stepped up has been a major source of strength for me to do my job. I can't begin to thank all the members of our shul who came through for themselves and for us. Rather than me listing them, perhaps forgetting some or you forgetting who I included and excluded, volunteers will all be named in a special Koleno send-out. My deepest gratitude to you all. You're an example of what I'm trying to inspire in this message. You lead, you create, you practice true acts of chesed. You have answered the call to be your best selves. One job that I assigned myself at the beginning of my tenure was to keep lines of communication open. Staff and I have made effort to keep our members informed of how we are dealing with COVID issues, how keeping staff and members safe and healthy is of paramount importance, and how we can remain a source of comfort, community, and spiritual strength during this time. As the rabbi spoke about in his Rosh Hashanah sermon, we are social creatures, and it's important to keep our social connections for our health and well-being. You're such a dedicated congregation. In lieu of a gala annual fundraiser, which was impossible, we raised $44,000 in a non-event drive in the spring. This year we grew by 45 new memberships. We held B'nai Mitzvah by Zoom and in small groups, mostly outdoors, and sometimes indoors during the summer. There were conversions, weddings, baby namings, Brit Milah. It all happened. We wondered how attendance on Zoom would be different than in person for Kabbalat Shabbat and Shabbat mornings. Turns out, not so much different. Often we've had over 100 Zoom screens of participants on a Shabbat morning. We've had full minyanim for weekday services twice a day since we went virtual. Ramping up has included a daily Torah study, which is well attended, and making Zoom and Learn a weekly event instead of monthly luncheon. 60 to 80 plus attendees each week. We've had programming almost every day, guest speakers, special panels and events, holiday programming, We had a well-attended Passover Matzah Maror and Zoom family Seder with 75 participants. We have Hebrew school, high school, and youth Shabbat programming, which all successfully transitioned to Zoom, and now some programs are transitioned back to being in person. Our youth and family programs filled the summer with family fun. I think this year we have been given a chance to figure out what really counts. I learned about the strength of our congregation. I felt so connected when we learned to get together online this year. I felt supported, and I know that staff and other volunteers have too. We've all experienced something new together. Thank you. So, we found out that we all need each other, and that we can all give and receive graciously in turbulent times. The challenge I give you now is this. I invite you to make a commitment to find new meanings in your membership. You're always welcome to join an existing committee or create a new one that serves a need. Try a new ritual, learn a new prayer, come to morning services online, make food for those who could use it, develop a sustainability practice, zoom in on one of the highly popular programs that we have right now. This year, one member saw a need for connecting at Shul through programming for empty nesters. He's now chairing the newly formed Adult Programming Committee. You'll be hearing a lot from them soon. Another member has become our virtual host for Morning Minyan, a newly created job opportunity courtesy of COVID. Many of you have told me about a new ritual or practice in your home because of the physical distancing and isolation. This is the time for a fresh start, one that makes you feel good, feel connected, and feel the personal holiness of doing something for yourself and for others. And then I want you to tell me about it. A huge reward of this job has been hearing from you. Comments, kudos, support, ideas, criticisms, but be kind. If you let me in on your activities, I promise to follow up with you, help find partners for your initiatives, confirm opportunities. Make this year count for BI as well as for yourself. I'm going to ask you for money. After all, this is the High Holiday Appeal. But I'm not asking for it in a vacuum. I also want volunteerism, participation, support, cooking, driving, Zooming, learning. But I also want your money. This year, we're in uncharted territory financially. Our budgeting has been contingent on so many unknowns over the next several months. We'll be fine with your help. We'll do our part to be there for you in whatever format works for the time, physically distant, remote, or in person. Please help us with our job by donating now. This keeps our operations running smoothly so that we face our future together with strength. These are the cards that you've received in your package. This year, you have the opportunity to donate online. You can find the link at bethisraelvan.ca. There's a donate button on the top right corner. You'll go into a safe donations page, or fill out this card and mail it, or drop it off at the office, or call the office and phone in your pledge. As a passionate congregation that inspires our community, we are asking for your support. Thank you.